live. You see they're dry. You see there's no marrow in the bone. You see they're scattered all over the valley. They ain't even full skeletons. I mean, the bones are scattered all over the valley. They're just bones. But answer me a question, Ezekiel. Can these bones live? Ezekiel answers the only way he knows how to answer. Lord, you know. Critical race theory was born out of critical legal theory. Am I teaching y'all something today? There emerged two common beliefs linking all critical race theories. First, white supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's just a fact. How in the world are you going to fight against that being taught in any school? White supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's a fact. Why don't you want that to be taught in school? You let your schools teach us that Columbus discovered America. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that George Washington couldn't tell a lie. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that some slave owners were beneficent and good slave owners. There were no good slave owners. Anybody who owned people was evil. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that Abraham Lincoln was good for Negroes. No, Abraham Lincoln was trying to save the Union. And Abe Lincoln himself said if he could save the Union and keep black people in chains, he would do it. That's a lie. Come on, somebody. You let them teach us about a white Jesus. You let them teach us that Native Americans were the aggressors. Come on, somebody. That white folk had a manifest destiny and that the pilgrims were good to Native Americans. That's a lie. All day, every day, you let them teach us lies. All throughout my history in school, I was taught lies. But you got a problem with critical race theory because it teaches the truth that white supremacy has subordinated black people and people of color. The right to bear arms. Let me just back up a little bit and let me take you on back to the late 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And they were oppressing black folk, and a group of men and women known as the Black Panther Party decided that they were going to defend the rights of black folk. And the Black Panthers decided that the Second Amendment wasn't just for white folk. So they strapped themselves with guns and showed up at the Capitol in California. And when they saw them Negroes with guns, come on, somebody. That's why I say if you ever really want to get gun laws changed, just strap all these Negroes up. They'll change them laws before the week is over. When the Black Panthers, watch this, I want you to read, the California legislator passed what was called the Mulford Act. It was a gun control act that decided who could get guns, who couldn't get guns, what could be in your background, what couldn't be in your background. It was the first time in history that the National Rifle Association, the NRA, supported restrictive gun legislation, all because black folk had the nerve to get strapped. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, go get strapped. Amen, somebody. Y'all gonna say Bishop told us to get strapped. I said it. Go get strapped. It just got real quiet up in here. But y'all already know I'm a triple P. Amen. Y'all know what a triple P is, right? A pistol packing preacher. Amen, somebody.
Thank you, Jesus.
You made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. That's the name of the Lord. Somebody got to tell themselves it's all right if you got it now. Just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You've got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now. May not get it next week. You might try to stop me from getting it. But if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while, I'm going to get what belongs to me. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. He got to take away from you so you understand how to depend on El Shaddai. Come on in here. Thank you, Jesus. Our young people are dying. Cracked out. Suicide. Homicide. They'll kill you at the drop of a dime. Our jails are full. Yet the crime still runs rampant. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. Thank you, Jesus. Hey, I don't have no $100,000 year thoughts. The $200,000, I got $1,000,000 thoughts, baby. You better think, because the Bible said, as a man thinks. 90.7 WTCC. Good morning and welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. 5 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. And I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us up until the 9 o'clock hour with the promise. You can hear the promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music. A good way to start out your Monday morning, a great way to start out your week. And listen, I want to talk about this week. We're continuing on this conversation. I know we've been inundated with it, and some of you are like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of hearing about Kanye. Um, but this is a cautionary tale, and it is very nuanced, and there are all kinds of angles that we need to look at this from. And today I'm going to talk about that what we've witnessed here is a very public modern day buck breaking. Yes, 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 and I'm using a term um, from the days of enslavement, but it is very true. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't seen the documentary Buck Breaking, produced by Tariq Nasheed, I'm featured in it along with a number of others. You need to do a search and go ahead and stream that. Pick up the DVD and watch Buck Breaking, because that's what you saw happen with Kanye. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how um, anti-Semitism is met with a swift, immediate, severe consequence, but anti-blackness is continually tolerated and defended. And then we've got to talk about, and I know that I've been accused of anti-Semitism, and I'll continue to be accused because even when you do a fair critique, um, you know they slap you with that label. We're going to talk about some of the hypocrisy in the Jewish community around this. Um, we're going to ask, where some of them were when he was being anti-black, because there were some of them who were assisting him in his anti-blackness, but then wanted black people to be outraged at his alleged anti-Semitism. So tell a friend, tell somebody. Bishop is on the air right now. Tune in, and let's get ready to talk about this conversation. All right. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. A positive attitude says everything about you. Attitude is the little thing that makes a big difference. Every day you get up, you've been given a gift. That's why they call it the present. And it's up to you of how you unwrap it. So yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. So don't let the pain of your past bleed into your present and poison your future. Stop replaying the movie, why did this happen to me? When it's done with you, be done with it. If it seems like you keep running into pigeons, it's an indication that you're flying too low. So set your sights a little higher. Remember, eagles fly by themselves. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. Allow your challenges to be a stepping stone to propel you into new possibilities. So be discontent with your past accomplishment. You're only as great as your last success. So maintain your hunger and your passion. Remember this, within every seed there is a tree. In every tree there is a forest. Who and what you were born into is simply the environment to prepare you for your ultimate purpose. It was not a setback, it was a setup. Your purpose and potential is bigger than your past pain or problem. That he gave to you. Listen to your heart, don't let your mind fool you. Remember the talk that he gave to you. Whatever you do is gonna surely come back to you.
will do the things they hate to get the things they love. Much of life is about sacrifice. You got to give up something to get something. Success is not about what you've accomplished, but it's what you have overcome. For it's the test that you pass in life which qualifies you for the next level. You have to be willing to face your challenges and overcome them. Most people drive 12,000 miles a year moving forward, but most accidents are caused when they move backwards. You gotta stay focused on what's ahead of you instead of what's behind you. It's your daily routine that determines your success or failure. Whatever you practice at is what you become great at. What's more important than being intelligent is having the right attitude. Respect costs you nothing, but it will cost you everything not to have it. So don't be too smart for your own good. Remember, a hard head makes a soft behind. What's more important than your five senses is common sense. The heart of a fool is in his mouth, but the heart of a wise man is in his character. So don't sweat the small things. The answer for a short temper is a long walk. Be slow to speak, quick to listen, and remember this: you haven't lived long enough to know everything. Your character is what matters most. Once you have been labeled with a bad reputation, it's hard for people to see you any other way. A good name is worth more than all the money in the world. Your life is broken up into three parts. First you learn, then you earn, and then you return. You gotta give back. Talk to me, Daddy. I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from, and hit. But it just made me stronger, and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me, and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. She's looking good. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan the second. And listen, I need y'all to like, I need you to share, I need you to subscribe. Go ahead, put your comments in the chat section. Let's get it crunk. Hopefully I can see my chat this week. You know, last week I was having a problem. Seeing the chat. I can see the chat. Yes. Enfield, Connecticut in the house. H-Town in the house. Mother Green. Yeah. I had to go back to the radio background. Let's see who else is in the house. Rep your city, rep your town. Houston be deep up in here, man. I'm telling you. Houston, man. Maybe I ought to move to Houston. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is up in here. Good morning to each and every one of you. Those of you in the Twitter space, drop it in the comment. Let me know what part of the nation or the world that you are listening from. I would love to know where you're coming from. 413-337-1867 for those who are listening over WTCC Radio in the Pioneer Valley. Welcome to the Pioneer Valley, and
of all of those around the world through the internet and all of that stuff. Chicago in the building. That's my daughter right there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Chi-Town in the house. Listen, 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 brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. I see you, Birmingham, Alabama. I see you, Richmond, Virginia, up in here. I see you, Springfield, Massachusetts. Y'all better be in here. I see you, Springdale, Maryland, up in the building. Yes, up in the building. Um, what we have witnessed is a public lynching. Public lynching. Of Kanye West. Now, let me make this clear. One of my Jewish colleagues hit me up last week. I'm concerned for the public statements that I was making. Because for the most part, what I've been doing is comparing the response to Kanye West after making comments that were offensive to the Jewish community with how he was tolerated when he was making anti-black statements and pushing white supremacist talking points. And unfortunately, many perceive that as defending Kanye. Defending Kanye. No, nobody was defending Kanye. Making the contrast, very clear contrast between the response, the lack of consequences for Kanye's anti-blackness, and the immediate, swift, and severe consequences for his anti-Jewishness, or at least his offense to the Jewish community. That's not anti-Semitism. That's just telling the truth. And it's unfortunate when people perceive truth as anti-something. It's kind of like white folks in America teaching the truth about America's history of anti-black racism, enslavement, and white supremacy in schools is somehow anti-white. So telling the truth is anti-white. Telling the truth about what white folks actually did is anti-white. No, it's just truth. It's just history. It's just fact. So talking about how there was no level of consequence for Kanye's anti-blackness and him pushing white supremacist talking points far longer than his offense to the Jewish community. And the immediate response to his offense to the Jewish community is not anti-Semitism. It's just fact. It may be uncomfortable facts, but still fact. Case in point, and they won't like me saying this, Dov Charney, who was the founder of American Apparel. Okay? Jewish man, founder of American Apparel, owner of another company. His company, a Jewish-owned company, is the company that made Kanye West White Lives Matter t-shirts and was prepared to distribute them, had a distribution deal with him for the White Lives Matter shirts. And it was only after he offended the Jewish community did that company renege on their distribution deal and refused to distribute the shirts. So as long as he was being anti-black with these White Lives Matter shirts, which is really a phrase that came about in response to Black Lives Matter. It was the white supremacist response to Black Lives Matter. But a Jewish company was perfectly willing to manufacture and distribute the anti-black White Lives Matter shirt until he offended the Jewish community. That's hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. And why isn't the Jewish community calling out Dov Charney for being perfectly willing to distribute those shirts with a white supremacist trope on them? You can't have it both ways. You can't tell the black community to stand with the Jewish community against anti-Semitism while the Jewish community helps to push anti-blackness. It doesn't work both ways, ladies and gentlemen. Does not work both ways. That's hypocrisy. And then when we tell the truth about it, when we stand up and say it is what it is, then we get accused of being anti-Semitic. Truth is not anti-anything. It's just truth. Matter of fact, somebody type that in the comments, please. Type it in the comments. Truth is not anti-anything. It's just truth. That's all it is. And so we've seen a public buck breaking. It wasn't until he offended the Jewish community that companies he was affiliated with, Adidas, Balenciaga, The Gap, and others, ended their relationship with him, bringing to an end his tenure on Forbes billionaires list. Sucked away $900 million in wealth from him. Immediate response. He didn't lose a dime being anti-black. And he didn't lose a dime pushing white supremacy. But he lost nearly $1 billion for offending the Jewish community. Now you can't have it both ways. You can't say don't talk about Jewish power, because that's anti-Semitic. But then demonstrate Jewish power by publicly buck breaking a black man economically and bringing him to his knees. You know, I mean, the irony. Don't talk about Jewish power. That's an anti-Semitic trope. But then you demonstrate the truth in it. When things like this happen to somebody like Kanye West. You know, once again, as somebody typed in the comments for me, truth is not anti-anything. It's just truth. It's just truth. That's all it is. The $1 million question is, why didn't this happen to him a long time ago? given his history of making anti-black statements. Ye, as he's now known as, legally changed his name, has made tons of inflammatory statements that have angered the black community. His insistence that slavery was a choice, that racism is an outdated concept. Basically, racism don't exist. White Lives Matter shirts, all of that stuff. Yet none of those things were met with any decisive, punitive economic consequences, like what happened once he offended the Jewish community. And it's a fair assessment for us to say that his punishment is part and parcel of him making anti-Jewish remarks, and that people care little to nothing about his anti-black remarks. That's a fair assessment. It's a fair assessment because black suffering is overlooked and minimized in this culture. Bottom line. Bottom line. And we've got to call out the disparity in it. Case in point, some folk got upset because I pointed out several other glaring disparities that point to a level of hypocrisy. When Chase Bank pushed Kanye out, we don't want to bank with you anymore. And I know people say that was in the works prior to this, blah, 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 but we all know that it was his offense to the Jewish community that pushed it over the edge. Okay? So you tell a black man that has $140 million in your bank, get out. We don't want to bank with you anymore because of your anti-Semitism. Yet when a Jewish man, Jeffrey Epstein, Trump's buddy, Trump's pedophile, child sex trafficking buddy, when he was convicted in 2008 of child sex trafficking, high up executives in Chase argued on his behalf, and they kept him as a client until 2013. They didn't get rid of him until 5 years after he was convicted of child sex trafficking. So you mean to tell me a black man says some words that offend the Jewish community and Chase Bank gets rid of him? A Jewish man gets convicted of child sex trafficking and they keep him as a client. This is fact. You can look it up. Not to mention, Chase was a slave owner. Yes. JP Morgan Chase accepted slaves as collateral on loans. They accepted enslaved black people as collateral on loans. They owned slaves. So we're going to get rid of a black man because he offended the Jewish community, but we never canceled slavers. Not only did they own slaves, they partnered with insurance companies to insure white slave owners against the loss of their property. Yeah, in case enslaved black people were taken from them, in case they were emancipated or whatever, the loss of property. They worked with insurance companies to insure white slaveholders. This is the bank that righteously supposedly got rid of Kanye for being anti-Semitic. I mean, the hypocrisy in this whole thing is absolutely mind-blowing. Let me give you another example. I need to look up his name real quick because, I'm a senior now, and we have what we call senior moments. He owns the Los Angeles Clippers. Let me see. Hold on. I gotta find this because this is the other thing. Another Jewish man, um, NBA team owner, WNBA team owner. Let me just look on my Twitter page because I know I tweeted about it. WNBA team owner, um, who mistreated black employees, who called black players. No, the Phoenix. The Phoenix. I think he was the owner of the Phoenix. Yes. Let me look it up. Somebody else got it. Somebody look it up and um put it in the comment section because we're gonna put this out here too because once again it's another disparity um, of a Jewish man being openly racist, and there wasn't the outcry. Robert Sarver, yes, Robert Sarver, the majority owner of the Phoenix Suns from the NBA, not Donald Sterling. I know who you think about. This is recent. This happened this year. Um, Robert Sarver, Jewish man, majority owner of the Phoenix Suns, and owner of the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury, was busted sexually harassing women and being verbally abusive to black players and employees and consistently calling them niggers. Okay? Yeah, y'all keep putting Donald Sterling. I'm not talking about him. I know that story. Um, but I'm talking about Robert Sarver, Sarver. Look it up. Somebody look it up and put the story in the comment section. Now, the NBA did an investigation and corroborated that this guy consistently called black players and employees niggers, sexually harassed women. They suspended him for a year. Unlike Donald Sterling, who y'all keep talking about, the NBA made Donald Sterling sell his team. The NBA didn't force this Jewish owner to sell either of his teams. Neither the Phoenix Suns. Now, he decided himself he was going to put them on the market. He was not forced to sell his teams. And you heard no outcry from the Jewish community about his anti-blackness. None. Somebody find me an article that says Jewish community condemns the anti-black racism of Robert Sarver. Yet, they want the entire black community to stand in solidarity with them against Kanye West. Yet, when Jewish folk like Robert Sarver and others display virulent anti-blackness, they're completely quiet. They don't stand shoulder to shoulder with us against anti-black racism. I know, y'all gonna say Bishop Swan's being anti-Semitic. Once again, somebody put it in the comments. Truth is not anti-anything. I'm just telling the truth. These are facts. You can look them up. It is what it is. Let's get some folk up in the comment section. Let's get Jonathan Lee. Jonathan, you're in the Twitter space. I'll at you, boy. 413-337-1867 also is the number if you want to chime in on the conversation. Jonathan, unmute your mic there, brother.
Thank you, Bishop. I appreciate you setting up this forum.
Yes,
And
sir.
I always appreciate your fine work out there, speaking truth to power.
Thank you, sir.
I won't be long, sir. As I've been contemplating a lot of this that's been going on, I look at Brother Kanye, who's where he's at, as a portrait of Black powerlessness. And while we are, I think one of our greatest faults, if you will, as a people is our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're so busy looking for these folks who aren't our friends. And I don't just mean one group, I mean really the world, to somehow find some kind of humanity with us.
Yeah.
And as the late great scholar Dr. John Henry Clark always said, we have no friends.
There you go. We're in
It's
this
just us.
We're in this by ourselves.
I want to drop a name to all of you that I want you to look up when you have the time. And I just heard about this gentleman this morning. And it really I tell you, it's like the devil at work. His name is Edward Bloom, B-L-U-M.
Okay.
Edward Bloom. Edward Bloom, who so happens to be a Jewish man, is the power broker behind upending affirmative action. And he's the power broker who was behind gutting the Voting Rights Act.
Wow.
So he's, he's one of these ultra conservatives, has his beliefs. He's not a lawyer. He used to be in the financial sector, but he moved into policy and law. And so what he does is he seeks out cases that are antithetical to his own personal beliefs, right? And he looks for lawyers, and he looks for those who have been supposedly affected by these cases.
Yeah.
And he has garnered plenty of funds from conservative wealth. And that got me thinking, because I'm going, while we're looking at our brothers Kyrie Irving and the likes of Kanye West, who quite frankly, and I'll be real with you, I don't think he's a martyr.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, Kanye, I think he's suffering from the affliction of OJ syndrome.
Yeah. I'm not black, I'm Kanye.
Yeah, where, you get comfortable. And this happens to black celebrities all the time. They get comfortable and they think they can say just anything. Like, he was saying so much, a lot of his anti-blackness. I mean, the guy was running around wearing Confederate flags.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything. And, for the people who say, oh, it's not the same, I always remind people, the Nazis studied Jim Crow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they were able to do what they did. They studied Jim Crow. And if you ever talk to if you're fortunate enough to have any World War II veterans in your family who are still living, they'll tell you the question they were always asked when they were over there fighting was what? Why are y'all here? You know how they treat y'all.
Mm-hmm.
What you fighting for?
Right.
And so, the point I'm making is, when we're looking at these celebrities who are, this is clearly an overreaction. It's really about them showing and flexing. It is a high
and now see, and that's the thing. So you hit the nail on the head about them flexing. when I say a public buck breaking, it's like on the plantation. If a black man went against the master, went against the grain, they would take him out in the public in front of everybody, buck break him as an example to other people. This is folks flexing to say, look, Negro, this is what happens to you when you mess with us. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Spot on. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's like when they used to lynch us and they castrate us and they sell our body parts and they sell postcards. It's a sign and leave your body out there for hours at a time or for days at a time. And that's what's happening. That to me is the insulting portion of this. I never bemoan anyone. I will not bemoan the offended for how they might react. But when we're looking at this,
Mm-hmm.
you can clearly see this is not just about him.
Right. This is a message
to me that's the real dark magic happening. This is really to send some signal out. Look how quiet.
This is a message.
So-called friends are.
This is a message to all of us. Look, this is what happens when you play with us, and that's one of the reasons why I say that you're not really free as a black man, black woman in this nation until you don't have anything that they can take from you, because this is what they do. No matter how rich, this is an example of. Look, we don't care that this guy is a billionaire. We'll knock him down off his billionaire status. We don't care about his celebrity. We don't care about any of that. We're trying to and if we can, and here's the message, if we can do this to Kanye, what y'all think we can do to you? Good point, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah. Infamous Rasta. You're in the Twitter space. Holler at your boy. Morning, sir. Infamous. 413-337-1867. For those who want to chime in. Infamous, are you there? All right. I assume Infamous has some things going on with his microphone. Let me get Big Ra up in here. Big Ra, you're next. Next up, I believe that's me. Big Ra, get on the mic for the symphony. Unmute your microphone there, brother. What we are witnessing is a public buck breaking, ladies and gentlemen. For real. A public buck breaking. All right, you guys got to unmute your mic quick. You got to be listening for me when I bring you up. We can't waste time. Others are trying to get on. All right. Untouchable J.
Bishop, good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning to you.
Yes, sir. From the great state of Connecticut.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to chime in. First of all, thank you for holding a very intelligent space as always.
Yes, sir.
A couple things from this taken back. When this happens, I always tell black people to learn step by step what happens in a public buck breaking.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn from it. And with Kanye, it always is, like Brother Jonathan said, a person of color thinks they're bigger than their color. They're hit down, knocked back down to size, and then it's an apologetic campaign. And they're coming back around pandering to us.
Yeah.
Right? And this decision, do we cancel or not? And the canceling really has to be for that person to realize, hey, listen, all you have is us. Mm-hmm. And we have a system against this where we have to fight against. And that's what Kanye is not. But this one has been a little different than others because now our people have been on this thing, well, look at the context. What context? It's the same man that wore a White Lives Matter shirt.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And his apology wasn't an apology at all.
And it wasn't to us. It was to the Jewish community. And then when he so-called gave a half-hearted apology to the family of George Floyd, he turned around and slammed the mother of George Floyd's daughter.
Absolutely.
Like less than
and
20.
reminded her that he gave her $2 million.
Right.
Take your money, brother. Take your money back.
Right. Yeah,
yes, sir.
Then he called her greedy, and all that kind of stuff for suing him over his foolishness. Yeah. So so even his response is, okay, I'm going to come with my hat in my hand to the Jewish community, but yeah, you niggas, man, I ain't really apologizing to y'all.
Right. And my question still remains, if I could see him face to face. So do you still think fentanyl killed George Floyd?
Right.
I need yes or no answers to yes or no questions. And that's what Mr. West has refused to do. So for us, we need to start thinking that and remembering that entertainers are there to entertain. And when that's it, their opinions matter for little to none outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And people have been looking to him for more. He's a genius. He's not a genius. He's not a genius. We need to get a little more educated and realize that's some level of importance.
He's a talent.
There.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's a talented entertainer. That's it. Y'all stop that genius stuff. Y'all got a very low bar for genius. Yeah. A genius wouldn't tell you slavery was a choice. Okay? A genius doesn't have to tell you white lives matter. Ain't nobody ever had a question about whether or not white lives matter. That ain't no genius. Now maybe some folks saying, well, a genius as far as musically, okay, okay, I'll give you that. But let's not just loosely toss that term around, because what he is displaying is not genius. However, Kanye is, he pulls you in different directions. On the one hand, you realize how ridiculous it is for him to say the anti-black stuff that he has said. And at the same time, we also realize how unfairly he's being treated because of his offense to the Jewish community. And whether you agree with his comment to the Jewish community or not, what you have to be honest about is the consequences of it. Does the punishment fit the crime? I mean, how many people have been virulently anti-black and lost all that much? And then you also have to say this: if Kanye were white, would the consequences be the same? Because Trump and some others have been virulently anti-Semitic. And the banks ain't kicked him out. Let's just be honest about what's going on here. Let's try to get Infamous Rasta back up in here. All right, Infamous, you got the microphone.
Hey, what's going on, Bishop?
How you feeling?
Good. I just wanted to add something to this conversation. When are we going to start having a real conversation in America about what is the Semitic people and what is not the Semitic people?
Yeah. Well,
I'm pretty sure you notice most Americans, a Semitic person is somebody that speaks the Semitic languages.
Right.
And most of the American Jews aren't Semitic because they don't speak Hebrew, they speak Yiddish. And Yiddish is not a Semitic language. And it just bothers me every time somebody says something about the Jews, even if it's based in fact, they're so quick to call you anti-Semitic. But then when you ask them, is it anti-Semitic from when the Palestinians, when the Israelis bomb the Palestinians and treat them like shit? Is that anti-Semitic? They're quick to stay quiet about that.
Absolutely. And the Palestinians are Semitic people.
And they're Semitic people, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, and so that is a misnomer. The whole term of anti-Semitic doesn't really fit with the definition of what it means to be Semitic. And so criticism of Israel and legitimate criticism of Jewish people does not make you an anti-Semite. Um, so your point is well taken, brother. Appreciate you. Yeah, we've been saying that for a long time. Um, but of course, they'll call us anti-Semitic for saying that that's not what anti-Semitism actually is. They'll call us anti-Semitic for saying Palestinians are Semitic, even though they are Semitic. Oh boy, it's this topsy-turvy, upside-down world that we live in. Let's get borderline psychotic up in here. Borderline, you're in the building. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's going on, Bishop?
I'm trying to make it, brother. How you doing?
Excuse me. So yeah, I'll be quick with it. It's just, whenever I come in and talk to you, I say the same things. And there's a fight for reparations. And for me, people talk about money, with reparations, but I think the most dire part of this is the human rights violations that are going on in this country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about anti-feminism, but nobody's talking about anti-niggerism. And that's what goes on in this country every day. Same black on black crime and anti-niggerism. That should be against the law.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about black men specifically and all this stuff when they do the voting issue, right? They never single out any other individual. That should be.
Yeah.
When they, there's so much that we face, right? And so the biggest part for me with Kanye, somebody said something earlier that might have been true about where his friends are, but that's the fact right there. Black people are a bunch of bees. That's it. We are a bunch of bees, and we're sitting here complaining and crying while we're looking at exactly what's going on to us. It is a damn travesty that Jay-Z can say, I think it was Jay-Z, he had a line about something like he was getting money like the...
You
can't even say positive things about them.
It was
so
in the,
our anti-defamation league? Why are these things about black people are able to be put out every day on every national channel by anybody and everybody, and there is no one to hold anyone accountable? When we talk about celebrities, the reason we talk about celebrities and money is because that's where we see most of our money and power. But it's not really just them, it's everybody. Where the hell is Creflo Dollar? Where are all the people who are supposed to be bosses in this country when they look at black people? When they talk to black people, they're bosses. But when they talk to white people, they are a bunch of punks. They are a bunch of soft.
Yeah. Where are the
disrespect us every day? And I'm trying to not cut here, so I might be saying funny words. But
okay,
I'm trying to keep it cool for you because it's a very angering situation, and all I want to do is yell and scream. Like, we wouldn't take this disrespect from anybody black, right? Like, you wouldn't take this from your cousin, you wouldn't take this from the dude down the street. We have killed people for stepping on our shoes. But they step on our name and our morals and our life every day. And I'm just wondering, when is it going to be enough for all of us? I say every day that the problem is America has found the scientific equation for subjugation. They have found just the right amount of pressure to keep us in the place where I know it's bad, but I mean, we still got lattes and, and cable TV and the internet. So we're too comfortable in our subjugation right now, Bishop. And until we're ready to let go of some of these tropes of American life to get right, they're just going to continue to disrespect us, and we're going to be here again just talking about it and licking our wounds and crying to each other until, the day that they actually decide to do us like the Jews were done.
Yeah. Well,
So,
appreciate you, brother. So much truth in what you've spoken. Um, the fact of the matter is, like you said, when you said anti-niggerism, let's think about that for a minute, because just a couple miles from where Ye has his home in downtown Los Angeles, a couple miles from his home in downtown Los Angeles, there are two council members that continue to get paid after their involvement in a recorded conversation in which these Latino officials made crude, anti-black, and racist remarks while conspiring to expand their political power. So how come anti-blackness can be tolerated, but anti-Semitism is met with retribution? Do you think those Latinos that are still collecting a check from the Los Angeles City Council would be collecting that check if they had made some anti-Jewish remarks instead of anti-black remarks? Hey, like the Clark sister said, no, of course not. And once again, they'll say I'm anti-Semitic for speaking this truth. Um, um, and they try to force us to prefacing our comments with, I'm not anti-Semitic, before we say anything about Jewish people or the Jewish community. But let's just be real. I gave you the examples. Robert Sarver, Jewish owner of the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, consistently calling black players and black employees niggers. They didn't force him to sell his team. The Jewish community didn't come out and say anything, nothing about him. J.P. Morgan Chase, who owned slaves, who accepted enslaved black people as collateral for loans, never canceled a white slaveholder, helped to insure white slaveholders, got rid of Kanye from banking with them. Yet when Jeffrey Epstein, a Jewish man, was convicted of child sex trafficking, they kept him on as a client. What did the Jewish community say about that? Nothing. Well, I'm just pointing out disparities. It's not anti-Semitic to point out disparities that exist. Once again, y'all put it in the comments for me already. Truth is not anti-anything. It's just truth. I gotta get out your way. I gotta transition off of WTCC and get ready to transition into Justice and Flow. So those of you in the social media space, stay with us. We'll be coming up with First Lady and Justice and Flow momentarily. Those of you who are listening over the radio in the Pioneer Valley, you can come on, jump on YouTube, jump on Facebook, jump on Twitter. We'll still be here. If you're looking for a place to worship and you're in the valley, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, 11 o'clock a.m. every Sunday morning. And then check me out again on Friday at 9 a.m. for the Black Love Experience back here in the Valley over WTCC. Those of you in the social media space, stick and stay with us. We're coming right back up. Those of you on the radio, until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you. So do I. All right, what's happening? What's Swan on this Monday morning?
Good morning, family. Good morning. I got that one cricket too.
You don't come on the show talking about stuff like that.
I know these imperfections, right? They really show up though when you filming and putting yourself out there on video, live streaming.
All right, so we was talking about in the first hour this public lynching or public buck breaking, I called it, of Kanye, um,
Good
because
morning, mother.
of offending the Jewish community, while no consequences from the black community. But we're here on Justice and Flow. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Building,
Good
who's
morning. Good
still
morning, people
rolling.
of God. Good morning. Good morning.
Um, Babe, if you don't mind, let me get a couple people who were still trying to get in, see what they have to say real quick. Let me see who this is. This is Information man. Information man. Holla at me. Okay. Information man don't want to talk, so that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Let's get Tiffany. Tiffany, you got the mic.
Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Just
morning.
real quick, um, I think that I'm not doubting anything you're saying. I 100% agree with you about, um, not a lot of Jewish establishments or any, you know, come to our aid or our support when we need it or speak out against anti-black backlash, but anti-black speech. But another thing too is that, in my opinion, that if we don't come together and also hold our own accountable and also show the world how powerful we are, our voices are, our dollars are, this is going to keep happening. So I feel like we've been oppressed for so long that when one of us finally makes it, we want to protect that person as much as we can. And for example, with the Bill Cosby situation, everyone was like, when it first happened, and everyone was like, oh no, it's a conspiracy, they're trying to take him down, they're trying to buy NBC. And in my opinion, in reality, no, he's just our favorite black TV dad is just a predator. Or with R. Kelly, there are still legions of us, of our people, that think that R. Kelly is innocent. That think that Bill Cosby is a victim of a conspiracy theory. And when Will Smith walked on the Oscar stage and slapped Chris Rock, legions of us said, all right, it's not a big deal, let's move on, even though it kind of is a big deal. He assaulted someone on national TV on a white stage.
Yes, he
So
did.
I feel like when we want to protect our own so bad because we've been oppressed for so long and we're so excited and so happy when we see someone, when we see somebody that looks like us being successful. But when black people, when one of our own, a notable figure of our own messes up, for example, when Kanye we came with the White Lives Matter apparel, none of us reached out to Chase or Adidas, and just before. I'm losing my thoughts here. I'm sorry if I'm not articulating it properly, but
No, we
You
get you.
are. You are. You are.
yeah, we don't go for like with Candace Owens. Candace Owens, whether she wants to or not, is a black woman.
Yeah.
She has been running her mouth and being a terrible, toxic opportunist for years. None of us found out who she banks with, who she who holds her mortgage, who you know what I mean, people who hold her podcast. Like none of us went for her dollars, her pockets, because you know what, Bank of America, we just found out that her money, her and her husband's money are in your bank. If you don't drop her now or ask her to move her money, we're all taking our money to a black credit.
Yeah.
Like we don't do that, and I get it that we don't do it because again, when we see one of us finally make it was a lot of people who were hesitant to call Jay-Z out when he did that partnership with the NFL.
I did. Go ahead.
There were a lot of people who hesitant to call him out. I know you did. I've been following you here. But and still he's partnered with, he's head of entertainment and then something else, but yet you're still like, these white owners, JC, don't care what you think. They could put the blackest person on this planet in charge of whatever you're in charge of, Mr. Carter, and they're still not going to change. They're still not going to change their ways. So you were just trying to build your brand, but no. There were legions of us again under the blogs in the Shade Room and Baller Alert, Jasmine Brandon, B. Scott saying, no, this is Jay-Z playing checkers, not chess. Like, no, it's not. He's capitalism. He's a businessman. He said it. He's a businessman. So I don't know, but sorry if I was going on too long.
No, we got you. We appreciate what you have to say, for real.
I really appreciate you kind of shifting the conversation a little bit. I'm just gonna piggyback off of Tiffany, and thank you, sister, for calling in and giving us your thoughts. I'm gonna try to articulate mine too. They're all over the place. First of all, I definitely get your point, Bishop. You've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, and we've been calling his name. And I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna try very hard not to, because I think I think also something that we're not thinking about is like the season that we're in right now, which, everybody all across the country, we are voting. We are in early voting season. This midterm election is historic, it's epic, it's very important, and it's really gonna roll out the carpet and letting us know where we stand as Black people in this country. It's some prophecies are about to be revealed, if you will, in a week or so. Like right here, this is our last week of early voting here in Massachusetts. It ends on Saturday. And then we also have our election on Tuesday of next week. And we live in a blue state. We're not really that concerned, but our primaries were very disappointing. And then when I think about what potentially is going to happen, as far as Congress is concerned and what's going on in Georgia right now, I know that Ye is one man and he has one vote. I'm really a little bit more concerned about the tens of thousands of Black men, number one, which is the largest voting group, right? That's not voting. That's number one. We have a lot of Black people who are eligible to vote, but they are choosing not to vote. I'm very concerned about that. And then I'm also very concerned about the fact, and I think all of this plays a part in this. I think that Ye is a distraction right now. We're talking about him, we're talking about the Jews, we're talking about all of that. But I also think that part of it is a distraction. I think it's intentional to get us distracted about all these other things, slander, slowings, and and everybody else. When this election is so critical and so important, and I get that we got some issues with the Democrats, but I got more of an issue with the fact that there's so many of us, Black people, that are not voting, not participating in the process. And again, I'm concerned about the growing number of Black men that are choosing to vote for the Herschel Walkers of the world and the Donald Trumps or whatever of the world. So how does all of that, tie in together, Bishop?
Well, it all goes together, and I think it's all interconnected. I mean,
Me too.
like what one a caller said, um, and man, I wish I could remember the name that he gave us. We got to look it up. But what he was talking about, a Jewish businessman who was the one who funded the movement to get rid of affirmative action, and
Hmm.
also who was the architect behind um, 34 Republican attorney generals filing a lawsuit to gut the Voting Rights Act,
So so
which is why we have no enforcement of the federal Voting Rights Act to stop all of these draconian voter suppression laws that are being put in place all over the nation. That it was a Jewish guy behind that trying to see that Black folks aren't able to uh, to exercise political power. So if they want to stop us from having economic power and stop us from exercising political power, basically it's not just Kanye that's being publicly buck broken right now. They're trying to buck break the entire Black community.
and see, and that's what I want people to realize. I mean, like, don't be lulled to sleep and don't get so caught up on Kanye thinking that we need to defend one man. We're talking about a whole race of people. We're talking about a whole community, and we're talking about generations to come. We're not just talking about those of us that are alive right now. We're talking about generations to come. That's the one thing that I believe that the Republicans have over us. They think about the future. They think about how, the children that they want, live to see, how they can benefit from the policies that they're putting in place today. And we don't think like that. Unfortunately, we're too busy, fighting for the crumbs of today. And I do think that we need to start thinking more about not just right now, but what does this mean for generations to come, for our future. And so, with that being said, again, I'm more concerned about the yays that we don't know by name, that don't have a platform like he does, that's not a billionaire, but maybe the Tyrone the barber, and
That's my
Tariq,
barber's name for real.
Tyrone the barber, or Tariq the rapper, the local rapper, or I don't know, John the school teacher, or the coach, or whatever. I'm more concerned about them and how they're thinking. And also I'm really, really, really hurt that I'm starting to hear about the division between some of these black men, some brothers, and black women, and them being able to create, issues that divide us. Because I be doggone if I'm gonna, just sit idly by and let something like that happen. But I know that it's happening in places like Georgia, where the tensions are high when it comes to this election and voting.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that? I'm really concerned about this. I'm really concerned. I'm really
Well,
hurt.
well,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Um, and you already know my real concerns with Democrats. But when it comes to the criticism of black men and voting in Georgia, um, the highest voting bloc of the Democratic Party after black women is black men. Yet somehow there's this campaign that has been set in place to blame black men if Stacey Abrams loses, if Raphael Warnock loses, um, and to paint the entire black male voting community with the same broad brush. Um, yet, yet they're not going to blame white women who vote overwhelmingly 60% um, against um, any Democrat candidate, or white men or Latinos who vote in far higher numbers for Republicans than black folk, but somehow they want to place the blame squarely on black men and criticize any black man who has any criticism against the Democrats, legitimate criticism against their, it's not even benign neglect anymore. It's just straight up neglect and apathy when it comes to the concerns of black men and the black community in general, and basically want to tell us to shut up. And instead of dealing with our concerns, they want to label us as tools of white supremacy, the white people of black people, and all of this other kind of stuff. And you can't talk down to a man like that. You can't do that and not address his real concerns and then expect that you're going to shame him into voting your way. That's not going to happen. And so this game that they're playing, I think, is dangerous. Let's see if we can get. Let's see
But
if we.
wait a minute, Bishop. Before you bring somebody else up, I just needed to say this. I think we're talking about a few different things, and I think that people kind of miss out on it. So let's go back to that, maybe that 13% or so. I believe of black men supposedly that voted for the Donald Trumps of the world, right? I think people need to recognize that 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 group of black men were not black men like you. In other words, that participated in the process, that voted, probably more than likely voted Democratic, and but also criticized the Democrats as well, right? were very critical of the Democrats and trying to hold the Democrats extremely accountable. There's a larger group, I believe, and this is where it gets tricky, I think. And I think Tiffany kind of brought this up, and and she expressed my heart a little bit. So a larger number of that 13%, and we're talking about that 13%, right? A larger number of that 13%, in my humble opinion, are confused black men, and not a black man like you. And the reason why I'm harping on that is because those are the black men that called in, right? Number one, they would, say things like, if you vote Democrat, you're on the plantation. Heard that. And then they would call in and they would say things like, I can't vote for it. And I heard this recently. I heard this last week. I was listening to to a talk show, and they was trying to get that group of black men to call in, and the statewide they were voting for Herschel Walker as opposed to Reverend Warnock. And so they said things like Reverend Warnock is not a real Christian because he believes in abortion. So you heard things like that. You heard them call Reverend Warnock a hypocrite, and that Walker was not a hypocrite. And then you heard some of them even say things like, no other president did more for the black community and black men in particular than Donald Trump. You heard things like that. What's going on?
Okay, so we do have folks who have parroted those talking points. There's no doubt about it. But we also have black males who are concerned about reparations. They're concerned about um, an anti-black hate crime law. They're concerned about police reform. They're concerned about a number of things
That's
that
the 80. That's the 87%.
they're concerned about a number of things that Democrats promised that they were going to act on and have failed to act on and have failed to prioritize. And they have now become disenchanted with the party and have decided that, you know, they too may not at least or vote down ballot or may not vote Democrat because of those things and not necessarily see every black man that's not going to vote Democrat is not voting for the Republican and is not walking in lockstep with white supremacists. And that's my concern when they try to label anybody who has any critique of Democrats as being a tool of white supremacy. Um, Information man, unmute your microphone.
How you doing, Bishop, and everybody listening? I had dropped off by accident, but I'm back on.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
to you, brothers and sisters listening. Let me just say this. This is a cautionary tale. Kanye West showed anti-black sentiments, and he did not lose $1 billion. This speaks to how America really sees black people. The minute he talks about Jewish people, as you already know, he's losing money, he's losing deals. But why didn't he lose deals when he was talking about us? And why is it that we as black people need to ask ourselves something? Do we want power or do we just want personalities and symbolism? Okay, he's a symbol, he's a personality, he's a celebrity, and Malcolm X warned us about following these celebrities as if they speak for us. And when we talk about the Democratic Party, or what I call the Democrats, or in the Republican clan, both parties are the same bird, same wings of the same bird, left and right. Some screw you with Vaseline, some screw you without Vaseline. Black men are not voting, or black men are concerned about the Democratic Party because every time we want our issue, the Democrats keep using these words like marginal people and people of color. We're not people of color. We're black people. They never want to deal with our issues, but yet they're wrapped up into the immigrants and the migrants. Look at how they're treating the migrants in New York compared to black men, black women that are homeless in New York. So the question is, What do we want, black people? Do we want power? You got Latinos in LA, I live in California, that are screwing us behind the scenes, trying to divvy up power for themselves. So we can't afford to argue with ourselves, to be angry at it. We got to work together. Kanye West is not our leader. That Negro took himself out there, got himself away from black people, and he hangs out with white folks, white society, and you see what they did to him. Candace Owens hasn't said one thing about what happened to Kanye West on her Twitter page, hasn't spoken out for this man at all.
Right.
So she used him as well.
Yes, she did.
So the Democrats, black men, let me just give you real statistical numbers. Black men voted for Donald Trump at 8% the first time he ran. We bumped up to 11% the second time he tried to run. The fact of the matter is, black women voted for Democrats at 93%. Black men voted around 83%. So this whole thing about let's blame black men. Every time the Democrats don't win an election, they either blame black men or they keep blaming black people. We're not the fault. But when they don't win the damn election, when we overwhelmingly vote for them all the time, they never talk about the other groups. Well, why did the other groups vote? Why do we always take the blame? And then as black people, we do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We do it to ourselves. What have we really gotten from the Democrats? All these years we've been voting for them.
Brother, I want to pass the plate around to the audience so we can take a little offering, because you've been preaching this morning. Appreciate you so much,
man.
Brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, any comment?
I'm not in disagreement, but I'm still trying to figure out it. 13. When 8, 11, it's climbing. That was my whole point. It's climbing. More and more black men are switching over or withdrawing from voting. At a higher rate than black women, certainly. Whatever. I'm not concerned about the other groups. I'm talking about us. I want to know why. I want to know why and why we can't unify. What's the problem in?
Well, I'm not sure. I want us to necessarily unify.
I didn't finish my question, but I'm just saying, what's going on to where we're not coming together more. Coming together more, black women and black men that vote. And I'm also concerned about the fact that the largest group are those that are not voting. That's the largest group.
That's the far larger group of all communities.
The largest group is those that are not. But again, I don't care about the other communities. I'm talking about us.
So
we're the only group. Aren't we the only group that experience voter suppression? Aren't we the only group that got to fight for the vote like we do? I don't care about the other groups. I'm talking about us.
Here's my point. I don't think we ought to necessarily be unified in terms of, we ought to be unified around the concerns of the black community and advocating for the concerns of the black community. I think it's dangerous to be completely unified around a political party, because that's what we have been in terms of voting for Democrats. And that's what gives them to take us for granted, because they're going to say, it don't matter what we do or don't do, black folk are going to vote for us in overwhelming numbers anyway. And I think that's a problem.
Well, you would definitely have to make the distinctions with that, but I just want to put it on the record. I didn't say that.
No, okay.
I said for us to unify, as black women voters and black men voters, because for a large percentage, for it to grow of black men not voting, kind of in the same way around the same, issues and policies and so on and so forth, it's concerning. And that is the concern for me.
Here's my thing. Don't vote blue. Don't vote red. Vote black. Vote the concerns of black people. Let's get a woman's opinion in here. Lady Leela Brown. Unmute your mic. You got the floor.
Hi, good morning. It's Lila. Thank you, Bishop, for having me. And thanks to the sister who's giving some pushback. In regards to voting Democrat in Georgia, I think black men can vote any way they want to. If they want to hijack the vote out of some type of contempt or hate or massage noir, that's fine. Brian Kemp, a lot of the people that are for reparations in the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp, you can directly go after his family. They still have plantation land. A lot of that land belongs to black indigenous groups. His family comes from a family of slave owners. So if you want to know a little bit more about which families to attack in terms of reparations, dig into your own genealogical research, and you will come to find out that a lot of the Georgia legislature in the earliest days of the state's formation were slave owners. So when Brian Kemp was signing away and stripping away voting rights for many of the Georgians, he did so under a plantation portraiture. So even when we do vote our people in, they're not recognized. They actually had one of the newly elected who was arrested. So, we have that issue there as well. Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the only counties to have a reparations task force. It's severely underfunded. So if reparations is the issue that these black male voters are extremely conscious about and aggressive about, then there are areas that they could attack just even on a local level. Most of the times, people are just not digging into their genealogical records to even figure out where their ancestors were enslaved. They can't tell you much about the plantation or the families that supposedly own theirs. So I'm in Los Angeles, California. The brother said something about the Latinos, in their racist remarks in terms of districting, where Nuri Martinez was caught on a hot mic saying some disparaging things about a little black boy. She would beat him and all these other things. But
call him a monkey too. Monkey.
New York, they'll say that these are the brown people of color. These are the brown people, and they're one of us. They're just to another degree black, a variation of black. But I think that's historically inaccurate. The Spaniards are the nation that funded the transatlantic slave trade. You can start in Spanish Florida, many parts of the Caribbean. A lot of these Spanish-speaking nations were funded by the transatlantic slave trade. That's Queen Isabella. That can go all the way back to 1492. So I just think we need some historicness to this. And then as far as Republican versus Democrat, people keep saying they're the same birds of whatever. It's a bicameral system. So there will be some differences in ideologies, but there will be some similarities. That's just how we're able to move forward. But black people were beholden to the Republican Party. We were just as loyal to the Republican. This is the party of Lincoln. And then when they started making false promises, when they started taking the black vote for granted, we switched over to Democrat. I think the word Democrat is code word for black voters. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Maxine Waters, Emmanuel Cleaver, Bobby Rush, who's best friend to the chairman, Fred Hampton.
Who's my frat brother?
Make up the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm sorry, did you?
I said, when you said Bobby Rush, I said, who's also my frat brother?
Oh, amazing. Iota Phi Theta?
Yes.
Is that what you are?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Alpha Kappa Alpha.
All right.
So if our people just really just dug into local politics a little bit more, and also at the same time dig into the genealogy, they will find that their ancestors had a lot more than what is critical race theory is teaching us, that we all came from slavery. There were millions of black people who were free.
And indigenous black people.
New Orleans, in Louisiana. Just pick a state, and there's some deep Black American Native history there. So that's my point. But once upon a time, the Republicans took our vote for granted. And so we're just now really settling into the Democrats at this time. But a lot of people were beholden to the party of Lincoln, and they took that for granted and made a lot of false promises as well. And we just got tired of it, and so we switched.
All right, sister. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the history lesson, sis. I mean, it's just so much, rich history that we have. I believe that's probably why it's under assault and been under assault for many, many, many decades. But when she was talking about how we were beholden, to the party of Lincoln and the Republican Party, it made me remember being with Uncle Talbert one day. This was many moons ago, and Uncle Talbert is now what? He's 95. Is he 95?
94.
94. Yeah, 90. Uncle Talbert is now 94 years old, and I remember him having me go through his wallet, and he had his Republican voting card. You know, he had his voter registration card, and he was a Republican. And so I remember us, kind of talking about that. And he was still registered as a Republican, although he had been voting Democrat, for many years. When by the time that I ran into his voter registration card, but nevertheless, he was of that generation, that was fighting, for voting rights.
Well, remember now the first elected black U.S. senator since Reconstruction was Ed Brooke here in Massachusetts, who ran as a Republican. And you're right, there were many who during that time period were loyal to the Republican Party and who ran as Republicans. Matter of fact, when Uncle T ran um, for state representative, he ran as a Republican. And
Yeah,
so,
and when black men first started voting, because it wasn't all black people that got the right to vote first. It was black men that got the right to vote. They voted Republican. Those post slavery voters, they voted Republican. They voted in the Republican Party. Basically, again, trying to vote collectively, and that's my point about the unification is voting in collective power around certainly policies or to certainly make advancement in government. I think that's the reason why we vote. So I'm not trying to disagree with you. Not trying to say that everybody has to have the same mind and vote the same and this, that, and the other. As a matter of fact, that's probably not going to happen as black people, especially locally. But if you have more options locally, but I'm talking about with the national voting. I do think that we might do need to vote around a party, certainly around a party that advances us, in the best way possible, or whatever the case may be. But it's not about us being a monolith. It's not about us being perceived as you
yeah,
know
yeah, we just don't want people to think they own our votes. That you vote our way, or else we're going to castigate you, or disrespect you, or marginalize you, or any of that. I want both parties to know you don't own black people's votes one way or the other. We decide
I
how
think
we're
that,
going to
that
vote
I
and
think
what we're going to
again,
vote.
but I think again that, the way that we say that is in unity and collectively. I think that that's the way that we say that. I mean,
Well,
if we
well,
continue to,
see, but see, but
if we
see,
continue to,
but we're not saying that if I'll go back to Georgia, if black men who have decided not to vote Democrat, the sister talked about out of contempt, out of hate, out of misogynoir, and those are real things. But there are some who are not making a decision based on those things. There's some who are making a decision based on policies that are important to them, based on other things. And so we
okay,
just
well,
wait, wait, wait.
what
So we
policy
don't,
is
I can't
somebody
say
like Herschel
I
Walker
can't say I'm
presenting?
not talking about that. What I'm
Okay, well,
saying,
that's you saying
but
Georgia.
listen. What I'm saying is every black man that chooses not to vote Democrat is not doing it because of hate, contempt, or misogynoir. That's not the fact. And she was specifically talking about Stacey Abrams in that particular case, not Herschel Walker. All I'm simply saying is we cannot come into unity if black men are going to be buck broken publicly if they don't walk in lockstep and just vote one way. You know,
Well,
it can't be the
I
case.
gotta bring it back. I gotta bring it back to something that our son helped me to identify last week when we were having this conversation with him. 28-year-old, black male, certainly been voting since he was 18 years old. And I asked him this question. If you remember, I said, with all of the debate, with all of the argument, with all of the discussion, I said, is that causing more of a problem? Is that making voting more difficult, or is that inspiring you all or your generation to vote? And he said, remember what he said? What he said was, I'm going to vote because of the way that I was raised. But I can tell you that for some of my friends who wasn't raised like I was, or whatever, they're not inspired to vote. And so, like I said, in knowing that the larger population of eligible voters or registered voters who are not voting, that is more of a concern for me than the 8, 11, 13, 17% of black men who are voting and maybe not voting in the same way as black women, or whatever the case may be. And like I said, I don't care how black men vote. I don't care how black men vote. It's more important to me that they vote. I don't care how black men vote. I don't care how black women vote. Honestly, it's just more important to me that they vote. But I do think that we could be causing a disservice to our community as a whole when we don't know how to collectively vote, when we don't know how to unify and where to unify
But
in
we've
our
been,
vote. Because
once again, we've been
I believe
unified.
that's where the power. I believe that's where the power comes from.
Willie, unmute your mic. Willie, you got the microphone. All right. Willie don't want to holler at me. So let's get Juicy Genius. Juicy, you got the mic.
Good morning, Bishop. Peace and power to the fam in the room. I just wanted to speak as a Georgia voter. Here in Georgia, a lot of black men that I've come across, they have decided that the Democratic Party and these candidates that are representing Georgia are not competent, or they're just not interested in voting Democrat anymore. It's a form of voter abuse to tell black men to get in line behind black women. And I'm not an advocate for abortion, so that's the reason why I'm not voting for Stacey Abrams. And I'm not an advocate for supporting candidates who have a long lineage of slave ownership or human trafficking, so I will be voting Libertarian this year. Because what people don't know, or they may have forgotten, that there's a third candidate on the ballot for Georgia. As it pertains to black men, I feel like they should have it, or just men in general, fathers should have a say so in what's happening in regards to black lives being, murdered in the womb. 19 million lives lost through abortion. We need to restore our nation, and I believe that black men voting against the Democratic Party will definitely help in that case. I'll lay my mic there.
All right. Now that's different. So she says, I'm not voting for Stacey Abrams because there's some of her policies that I can't get with. I'm not voting for Brian Kemp because there's some policies he's got that I can't get with. So I chose another route. So there is that contingency of black men and women who have decided, I'm voting, I'm going to exercise my right to vote, but I'm not going with either party. And like the sister alluded to before, that many think they're two wings on the same bird.
Right. And morally and spiritually and mentally and emotionally, I connected with what she had to say completely. But unfortunately, we know, well, the way that it's gonna go down, that's gonna be considered a wasted vote.
Well, we've got to break up the duopoly, though. This duopoly of Democrat, Republican, one or the other, and anything else, you're wasting your vote. I think has to be done away with. I think it's dangerous. I mean, if you go to, and I'm not no big fan of Britain and their racist policies, etc., but they have many different parties that people have a choice to go with. We're the only major nation that has this duopoly that you either have to vote Democrat or Republican in order to be a viable candidate to win an election. And so, on the one hand, you have the overt racism of the Republicans, and then the covert racism of the Democrats, who purport to be your allies, and but then when it comes to uh, particular matters, they walk in lockstep with Republicans. Like right now, it's Democrats who are proposing 100,000 new police officers without any accountability on the streets and spending $13 billion to flood urban centers where black people live with more police officers to crack us upside the head with no accountability, without getting rid of qualified immunity or anything like that. It's like their policies regarding police reform mirror the policies of the Republican Party. And so it's problematic for us, you know, mostly because of this duopoly and this two-party system that America has.
I'm not in disagreement, but what are we going to be able to do about that in this election?
Well, see, that's the other problem, I think, is we keep on kicking the can down the road. When 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 Trump beat Hillary Clinton, they told black voters, um, give us power in the midterm in 2018 and we'll do something for black people. Black people voted, gave them the House. The House didn't present one piece of legislation that was beneficial to black people. Then they said, uh, well, give us the House and the Senate in 2020. Black people gave them the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And they still been lacking. And they keep saying to black people, well, just in 2022, give us some more Democrats and we'll do something for you. So that's the narrative we keep hearing. We can't do nothing about it in this election. Put them in power in this election and they'll get to us. And we keep waiting for them to get to us, but they can get to the LGBTQ community, they can get to immigrants, they can get to the Asian and Pacific Islander community, they can get to the Native American community, they can get to the Jewish community, but we're always the ones that have to be kicked down the road and wait for them to get to us at some other point in time. Your namesake.
Okay.
I want to get your namesake, Cynthia. You got the microphone. Cynthia Kelly, unmute your mic.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for calling on me. I wanted to address a couple of things. One of the interesting comment about the duopoly and the political system, I agree with you. It's just way too limiting. And in Utah, they're doing, and in certain local elections around the country as well, they were doing ranked voting. And Utah, in their big race for U.S. Senator, it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out, because you've got a coalition of Democrats and Republicans and independents trying to elect Evan McMullin as an independent. And that's what I think is the way to go, because I like you, am not fond of Britain's policies that they brought to this country, hundreds of years ago. But the idea of having multiple parties and having parties have to work together to get things done is very attractive option to me. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, I was very troubled, maybe even disheartened by the woman that said she was going to vote libertarian. The whole notion of Stacey Abrams' campaign is to provide choices for people. And yes, she's a Democrat, but she's not a I'm going to do everything they say Democrat. She speaks her mind, and she has
well, to be fair,
thoughts and policies that she wants to
To
put
be
in place, and she surrounded herself with a good cadre of policymakers that I'm very impressed with myself. And I really, really think that the whole notion behind choice in anything, not just reproductive rights, but choice in anything, the Democratic Party right now is the one that promotes that best of all. And yes, I totally share your concerns about the whole trying to outglue each other in the police support when there's no accountability. That stinks. Anyway, those are my comments, and I appreciate your letting me talk.
all right. Thank you. That was Cynthia. Cynthia.
Yeah, again, everybody, I'm not in disagreement with anything that's been said today, especially from the callers. Everybody's so smart, way smarter than me, much smarter than me. Here's the thing though. I I'm disheartened. I guess it's the appropriate word, because it's like we're going to vote. We're going to stay engaged. We owe it to our ancestors. Um, um, they they died so that we could participate in democracy. Do I feel that we're losing democracy? I don't know if we ever had it in this country. I don't know if we ever had it. I think our ancestors always wanted it, and we continue to want it. Um, I, I also agree that it's very frustrating, and it's extremely difficult to kind of live, amongst this Republican Democrat kind of, um,
Duopoly.
well,
Yeah.
uh, but only have those as choices, because my philosophy has always been sort of the greatest freedom, for me, as a black woman, is options. So the more options that you have, actually, the freer that you feel, or certainly the more liberated you are, as you maneuver and as you kind of walk through life. So the more options you can create for yourself. And so it is very frustrating to pretty much be limited to Democrat, Republican, and every once in a while you'll have another candidate. But again, especially on the national platforms and the state platforms, most likely, it's been some exceptions, right? But most likely on the state level, that is. But most likely, those other parties, those other candidates, whether they be independent, whether they be libertarian or whatever it is, they're not gonna win. And but like I said, I'm not so sure
But is winning
those
the say
voters.
all and be all? Because
It may not be, may not be,
sometimes, sometimes they run to
may not
push
be.
to push their
The
agenda,
needle.
push their
Yep.
issues
Yep.
into the public sphere. So
Mhm.
to force the other parties to have to talk about and
Yeah.
deal with those particular issues.
Or to come to the table. And I get that. But what I'm saying is, for us, I want us, I don't know. I don't know if this is possible, but it's like I feel like we need to have a plan and a strategy around our voting. And I think that that's what I mean when I say unify, you know.
Well, I think we ought to have a strategy. I
You
think
know,
we ought to flood both parties and then try to control both of them. But that's just my own thought. ODB, you got the microphone. Unmute your mic.
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
Appreciate the stage, Bishop. And it was an interesting conversation going on and everything like that. But me personally, I feel like voting, we need to quit just giving out our vote. We need to let America sway whatever way it's going to sway without the second largest population, which is us, the freemen people, the descendants of American chattel slavery. And until we get educated and know how to use our vote, if somebody's not mentioning reinstating the Freedmen Bureau, I can't realistically see myself vote for them just off the little bit of learning that I did. Because you're not pro-Black American. If you're not if each individual, like I'm a Texas voter, Sheila Jackson Lee, and I believe it was another lady specific to me, work they were doing in Fifth Ward, had an opportunity to listen to them in spaces. But if either one, at least the Mexican lady said she'll work lockstep with reparationists to get the Freedmen Bureaus reinstated on the camera or on recording. It doesn't mean I trust her, and I still got to do more research behind her. But the person that will guarantee stuff like that, actual tangibles for me, a Freeman, is actually who I can see myself. If they're not doing that, America can sway either way. Now, if it has to do with immigration, which I feel like is bad for us, then I'm going to vote against it. You know what I mean? A certain type of way, like in that type of way. And people might look at that against the Democratic Party as like, oh, anarchist, you're never going to win. But it's like you said, we're pushing our issues. You know what I mean? Especially as we grow older, I'm 28. We're going to continue to push these issues. And by the time I'm 34, by the time I'm 35, we don't have somebody, a Black candidate that's on a presidential issue, then I'm saying, fuck it, we got to break the whole system down. You know what I mean? That's as long as I can give it myself. You know, I'm going to give it to time where somebody around my age can run for president. And if that person, they don't got to win, but if they don't shake the whole foundation of the nation at that point, then it's over, bro. Then we breaking the whole system down at that point.
All right. Thank you, brother.
So what I think the young king was referring to was holding, people accountable. That I tell people all the time that voting is not just you going and submitting your ballot or you going and pulling the lever, taking 30 minutes out your day or 5 minutes out your day, however long it takes for you to go and participate in the actual voting process. That voting is every day, it's 24/7, it's ongoing, it's continual, it never stops. Because you got to remain involved, you got to remain engaged, you got to remain informed, and you're constantly finding out new information. The process is so convoluted now. Everything is so convoluted now, and it continues to kind of grow in its difficulty. So that's really important. But listen, I think that local voting is the way to go. Because I think that we need to think more about what's happening with our schools and our children and their education. I think that we need to think about more about what's happening environmentally with our water supply, with our soil, with our atmosphere and air. I think we need to think more about some of the social services that are being provided to our impoverished and our citizens, our elderly, our seniors. I think we just really just need to bring it home, bring it closer to home, and stop just thinking about these big broad aspects of the Democrats, the Republicans, the president, the vice president, and this that, and the other. And I think we need to start thinking about our city councilors, our representatives, our state representatives, our attorney generals. I think that those things really matter. Our Secretary of State and Education, all of those things are what's really most important. And if we vote up, in other words, if we start locally and then work its way up, I think we'll maybe just naturally become more unified and collective in the way that we vote.
All right. All politics are local. Ralph the Real. Let me get you in. There's a bunch of y'all who still want to get in, and we're just about out of time. Ralph the Real, you got the mic.
Yeah, Bishop. So I think one of the reasons why myself and others like me are drawn to you is because some of the things you are able to articulate in a way that stands for almost 90% of what we feel and how we see it. And so a lot of us are not able to articulate it in the ways that you're able to. Miss Cynthia said something about policies and such. So I'm in Miami, Florida, and you got two governors going right now, DeSantis and Charlie Crist. And so I can't stand DeSantis, but some of the policies, that he's presenting makes sense to me when you say stuff like, for instance, children, being transgender under the age of 5 years old. I stand for what he stands for in that. But then he'll do sinister stuff like in counties that need financial help or financial relief. If they're red, he'll give them more money. If they're blue, then he'll give them less. He'll do, play little games like that. So this is why I'm torn when it comes to, giving all I got the either candidate when you say Democrat, Republican, because I'm looking at this logically and I'm saying, we've all seen the memes where every community we got under the rulership of a Republican. What happens for us? It's the same. You look at a Democrat now, when you look at these communities, what happens to us? Everything remains the same. So it's like, how do I now go ahead and give my vote to somebody that I know the results are going to be, because we have evidence of this, exactly the same. Right. Whether the policies are different or not, it always ends up the same. And yet we're going crazy, but bumping heads with one another about what demographic is going to benefit, whose policy is going to look out for us. None of this stuff matters to us, but I do participate because of the fact that you never know. Just maybe, and that's a sad way to look at it, but that's what it comes down to right now.
Yeah.
Just maybe.
Yeah.
But that's all I am my plane now. Love you, Bishop.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
Oh, he don't love me? Everybody love you. They don't love me. But anyway, I really appreciated the way that he broke that down and his perspective on that. But one thing that we didn't get to today, and we have to go, but one thing we didn't get to when he said that, it made me think about how the other communities, which, I don't really want to talk about them, but how the other communities, they cultivate their candidates. They do cultivate their candidates, and they do set up their candidates. And we haven't learned to do that yet. We haven't learned to cultivate our own candidates and put them in a position to where they can run, and we can run them and elect them. So we need to do that too. We need to do a better job of that too. And that's the reason why it hurts me and it concerns me when I'm hearing about the argument, or the division between Black women voters and Black male voters.
All right. Greg, you're the last one I got time for. I appreciate all of y'all in the space. Greg, unmute your mic. Come through, Greg. Come through. All right. Well, I thought Greg was going to be the last one in the space. I was trying to give one more.
How many more people are there, babe? How many more people are there?
We got a few. We got about 5 or 6 that are still in the space. Let me try. I need to get one more of them in here. Let me see if I can get Letitia. Letitia, you got the microphone. You got the last say. Come on through, Letitia.
That was done in error, Bishop. I'm out on my walk, my morning walk, and I'm just listening. So put me back in the audience.
Okay. All right, Letitia. Letitia said that's an accident. I'm just listening. I don't want to say nothing to you.
Wow, she just inspired me. I gotta get the walking. I gotta get the moving.
All right. No name, no ID. All right, let's see what you got.
No, that's scary. That's scary.
Yeah. You got the mic, no name. A girl has no name. Okay, no name, don't want to do no talking either. All right, so we just gonna give it up. We gonna call it a day. Appreciate all of you all who came through in the space. Those of you who are still there listening, listen. We'll be back on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. on the Black Love Experience on WTCC Radio, and also simulcasting here live over the internet. So come on and hang out with me again on Friday. And then
Let me
on,
say this, Bishop.
go ahead.
Brothers, please know. I love black boys. I love black men. You're not gonna get no bigger cheerleader than me. You're not gonna get no bigger supporter than me. I love my brothers. I love my men. I love my boys. Or whatever. So please, if I did not articulate that, please understand that this girl right here, I got your back. I love you.
All right, y'all. Until the next time we talk to you and you talk to us, always remember, God loves you. So do we. We're out. Deuces.